Hey guys, Council Glenn with Bridging the Gap, where we talk about bridging the generational gap as well as the wealth gap. We literally take you step by step and tell you how to bridge that gap from where you are to where you want to be from the aspect of a boomer, somebody that's been there, done that in the Xer. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit the bell notification. We want to let you know as soon as we drop something, we want you guys to get it, want you to be first. So make sure you do those two things for us, and we can't wait to drop some more content. All right, guys, we're coming at you with some off the script, off the subject. Matter of fact, I'm gonna close my iPad and no notes. What you got?
Well, I tell you the thing that's really been on my mind and heart that's really concerned me. You know, everybody knows about the wealth gap, a disparity between blacks and whites.
Okay.
And I'm really concerned, Council, because the last year or so, COVID's been here, and our children really have fallen further behind. You look primarily at the private schools. They've been open. Many of them have been white schools, so their kids have gone. They've learned, and in the public schools, plus if our kids don't have a good home environment, though it's been only a year, our kids have fallen further behind. I've talked to some school teachers and they say, William, I'm gonna be honest with you. They said, listen, even though it's been challenging for everybody, they said in primarily the white home, though there's one or two parents working or not working, there's organization and structure, and the kids are at least learning something.
Mm-hmm.
They said comparable in a black household, whether it's two parents working or not working or one parent, the black kids are not plugged in. And I'm really concerned about the future of our black community because our parents have not been trained on how to be parents. And therefore, our kids have lost a year academically, but potentially lost a lifetime. And then you take that and add it with the digital economy that we talked about on episode 16 of my podcast recently. Already the digital economy, it's primarily a white thing. It looks that way. Then you add on this COVID and our kids not learning. The gap is so large that we have to find solutions. So that's been the thing that's really troubled me the last year or so.
What do you think the solutions could be?
Well, I wish I had all the answers, but I think the starting point, it starts with training parents. I'm on a board here and we were meeting just on Tuesday, and we talked about the problem, and we really thought it's really not a kid's problem. It's a parent problem. See, knowing UNCC, and I know your boys went to school throughout for the most part, but even if they could not have gone, you've positioned your family, one, that CC would have been home with them and they'd have had a standard curriculum, because even before they started school, they had a standard time.
Correct.
Or even if CC had to work a job and grandmama, somebody had to come in, there would have been an agenda because you understand the power of planning and organizing and structure. So we really believe it's a parenting thing, and that we're looking at the possibility of doing two things. One, getting the parents trained in how to train their children. And then we're looking at another concept called intergenerational ministry of training. Well, once we get the parents trained, then the kids and the parents come together and they learn together.
Got it.
So it has to be something in that field. But as parents, we have to step up and be there.
I got it. Man, I feel you on that one, Thompson, but but I think it is a parent issue, but at the same time, like with COVID, with job loss and just uncertainty, a lot of parents are having to choose with, hey, do I go to work or do I help with online school?
I agree.
And not knowing, what the stimulus is going to be, when it's going to come, unemployment, like that uncertainty. It's almost like which one do you choose? Do you choose to, hey, let little Johnny, whatever, not necessarily be at 100% in school and you provide for the family, the household, or do you slack off work and hope for the best to ensure that your child, goes to school and learns that he's supposed to, whether it's virtual in person or not. So, I mean, you think about a single parent who's used to working while their child's in school.
Yeah, gotcha.
All of a sudden, there's no daycare options at the height of COVID, no school, and they still have to work either online or in person.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard choice to make.
It is.
And I think what COVID did was highlight some of the financial discrepancies, or the importance of having finances, because it gives you options.
It does, brother. It does.
And in the Black community, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have options. I can't take a year off.
Yes, true.
To help my son. I don't have another parent to live in the household while one goes to work. It's me and me alone. Or we need both of these incomes to keep everything going.
Yeah.
Or we've stretched ourselves in times past that, we have so much debt that
it's true, man.
we can't afford to go part-time for this short period of time.
Yeah.
And the lack of financial literacy, along with the wealth gap, COVID just heightened that.
It did. But, I would have thought, a lot of times, and you're definitely right. I think it's sad to say, but a decision has to be made.
Yep.
Okay. Am I homeless? My lights out? Am I working for the car? So I get probably going to work is the choice. I guess the thing that sort of saddens me is that because that parent has not been trained, has not been educated, the importance now or looking at creating a plan may not be the best plan. Or even we talk about in the we're a community, everybody in the Black community ain't working.
Yeah.
But being able to find a way, because again, I think with you and CC, if you all had been, or Joe and I, if we had been forced to work and our kids had to stay home, I think just because of our informal education, we'd have found a way to get, even if we couldn't afford to pay them, we'd have found a way to get them over somebody's house, nanny's house, and nanny may be half sleeping, but give nanny a written plan to follow, put them kids over there, get them instructions, and at least help them get more than what they got, even without a monetary exchange. And I think that's just because of the informal education we got, whether it's reading books, seminars, or coaching. And that brings back the importance of an overall education for our people, because they just simply said, I'm going to work, and you figured out, which was not the best answer, but they at least did something to keep the lights on.
I agree. And to that point, I think we've lost as a community our sense of community.
Yeah.
That we used to have. I think about, man, like one of my favorite movies is The Sandlot, and that has nothing to do with African Americans, but just to think about how they grew up in that neighborhood. They were so tight that they played baseball every day. I mean, we move around so much as a society now with jobs, houses. Nobody it's not, we won't have the story of, grandma lived in this house 30, 40, 50
You're right.
years. We won't have that story because we, on to the next, moving, changing cities, changing jobs, or upgrading. But and that takes away from the sense of community, because we aren't as close, literally in proximity, as your generation was,
right?
Or had to be because of Jim Crow.
You're right.
Things of that nature. So that took away the sense of community. And at the same time, I think what played in a factor as well with the sense of community is the proximity. We talked about that. We talked about the moving forward. There was another point I wanted to hit as far as proximity. I don't know if they could have, obviously COVID caught everyone off guard.
It did, brother.
But I don't know what plan you could have made up to combat it, if that makes sense.
And let me just give just off the cuff. It might have been a thing whereby to find another parent that worked a different shift, possibly.
I got you.
Or to maybe find somebody who was on, what do they call it? Not welfare. What do they call it now? Assistance.
I got you.
They want public assistance. Or maybe find somebody who would retire. It's something. And like I said before, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But you and I, because of our mentality, would have at least found somebody 2 or 3 days a week to work this thing out. And then would have maybe looked at our sick days and our vacation days and our personal days, and somehow would have had at least the next 30 days, we'd have had a plan in place to give us more time to think. Because you're all right. COVID came in and boom, next thing you know, brother, things were shutting down. And that's why when I think about the African-American community, I think education is critical. But when I think education, I think from a three-prong approach. I think there has to be a formal education. I don't mean going back trying to get even a GED maybe, or trying to get a master's PhD, but at least learning the foundational things of reading and math, foundational. Then there has to be an informal education. And, our podcast plus other podcasts provide that, and reading books. Right now, you're reading books, aren't you?
Yep.
I'm reading books now. So an informal education, learning, and then even a kingdom education in that looking at the book of life called the Bible and learning practical things to do. Because if it's not practical, it's not spiritual. So I think the general answer, and it's a long-term thing, is to get our people more educated across every platform. That is key in what we have to get done, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and to shout out a local organization that actually was on top of this a little bit, Tribe Basketball Academy. Jason Keefe and his wife run it. They started before schools ever opened back up. I want to say it was early in this school year in 2020. They had the like a learning center that you could bring your kids in, and they had computers laid out, and all the social distances and everything, where hey, if you got to go to work and daycares ain't open, you can bring them here. We can only take so many kids.
I got you.
But we need more people in position like that.
That's true.
To be able to open facilities where we can take our kids, because you get your private schools and well-to-do people, a couple phone calls and your problem solved.
That's right.
We're not always in position to be able to make a few calls and have the connections to make them in a checkbook to write.
It's true.
They can handle the situation. So we got to be resourceful. And that's one of the things we've been good at.
True,
man. Is being resourceful, making something out of nothing. And
that's true.
I think, honestly, today's times have forced us to be a little bit more resourceful. Like, George Floyd verdict just came out.
Yeah, that's true.
And man, it was a sense of community when that happened, when he was found guilty on all three charges. And I think some of those instances, are tragic, but they are forcing us to come together as a community where, like, you see a lot of groups on Facebook, Buying Black Greensboro, or a lot of groups that promote, keeping the money in the community, and, just sharing resources and things of that nature. I think COVID and what's happening in society has forced us to get to that, and hopefully we'll stick to it. Yeah. But I think education is definitely an answer to the problem, but just having options.
True.
And, I know Biggie said more money, more problems, but you get some options too with the money as well.
You do. You really do. And I think a couple of things too is, like we always say, money's nothing but an idea. But if I got 100,000 here and a man has zero, it's going to, and I got ideas and you got ideas, but I got 100,000 head start. You may not catch up with me, but teaching people to think. And you are right again. I was born late 50s and 59, but I do remember in the late 60s about the Black community, the pride, because a lot of your great civil rights leaders came up about that late 60s. The key thing was we were very Black conscious.
Yep.
And we supported one another. We encouraged one another. And if we take that, now there's still a lot of injustices, a lot. But when we take that along with the educational opportunities that we have, and some of the glass ceilings have been broken, a Black president, a Black vice president, you got to think about 10 to 15 Blacks running Fortune 500 companies and a few more things. You take that, if we were to come together again, we can win.
I agree 100%. And I think we're migrating towards that. Yeah, I really do. And as long as we keep progress and keep uniting, I don't see much that can stop us. So I do agree with what you said about what COVID has done for this generation. Unfortunately, I think the lasting effects of COVID will be seen for decades.
I agree.
And people do not realize it.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
think that it's gonna be back to normal once things
No,
open back up. But
no.
I think this will be one of the things we read about with our children or children's children read about in the history books. That 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we'll still be seeing what happened with that year of COVID, a year and a half, now going on. So
let's do all we can to make a difference, my friend.
Yeah.
Because I think we're about education. So let's get it done.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, man.